All right. Welcome to episode number 3 of Wallet Talk. We are here and
Yeah.
recording is in progress. So, um, what a great week so far. I mean, it's early in the week. Last week was a little bit, I think, trying for the both of us and
hmm
a lot going on. We had a big spike over the weekend, right? So,
hmm
the price of Bitcoin, that
A
was good.
huge dip today. I was like, just when I finished buying, that's how it always is. I'm like, if I have a bunch of money, and this is with everyone, and I'm like gonna buy some, I'll wait like 3 or 4 days, and I'm like, oh, the price isn't moving, so I'll buy some, and then boo, goes on sale. I was like, oh well, it is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, when it's, you know, 180, you're gonna be like, oh man, I was a genius.
I know exactly.
Look
Right
at
now, like we go crazy over, 56 versus 63. But right, when you're at 180, you're like, who
that.
cares? You
Yeah,
know,
pennies. That's for,
the
that's for the little people, right?
little people, yeah.
Well, we've had a few developments over the last couple of weeks. I think one of them we've been kind of sitting on a little bit, kind of trying to
Mhm.
process it. The Apple Wallet, right?
Yeah.
Apple Wallet development, and they're opening up of the NFC to developers. I think it's time we just kind of try to discuss it and
Yeah.
kind of, I think I'd like to start off with just kind of mentioning a few really what I think are key points
hmm
with this development is that, Apple is a publicly traded corporation, but as we know, they have a very tight
hmm
tight lid on their hardware and their
hmm
software, right? And
hmm
by extension, their the App Store
hmm
is, there's changes all the time,
hmm
and in a big way, they're a bottleneck to services and endeavors of a lot of different types. And so
hmm
this opening, I think, is they're trying to kind of, I think Apple is kind of wanting to spin it a little bit and saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, we're now, they're in a
hmm
they're in a very dominant position just simply because of the proliferation of the iPhone, right?
hmm
And all, Mac devices. If you're an Apple, you're an Apple, right? For
Yep.
every
Yep.
the watch, right? I mean, a lot of people use the watch in a lot of really neat ways, and what I think a lot of people haven't really talked about, or it's only kind of come up just lightly, is that this was really pushed by the consumer protection agencies in
hmm
abroad. A
Oh, yeah,
lot of them.
exactly. Europe. I mean, we really have to thank Europe because Europe is forcing Apple against their will, dragging, kicking, and screaming into doing a lot of this, because Apple's like, they didn't want to open up anything, and it's hilarious. I'm sure I don't know if you watched too Apple lost the case to Fortnite, and even Europe ruled basically independently almost about the Fortnite thing. Like, look, anyone should be able to have a store. Like it shouldn't just be your store,
Right.
and Apple lost and Europe was threatening like $1 billion in fines. But remember, $1 billion to Apple is still trivial. Like it's still trivial compared to them pushing the boundaries, but they're pushing it so hard. And Europe is like, because supposedly Europe's opening up like, we're going to be able to actually use the NFC. Now, there's caveats, of course, because remember, Apple still gets a cut. And that's another thing people forget. Like, the credit card industry is complex enough. Debit card, MasterCard. Like, when you consider your debit card, right? MasterCard, Visa is a company, and they are the ones that do the settlement of transactions between all the banks. So, when you do a debit card transaction, the bank takes a small fee, right? But then so does Visa, right? And when you have a credit card that's Visa, like whatever your Capital One, right? Capital One takes a little slice, Visa takes a slice, bank gets a slice. And that's why the retailers always have to absorb these costs. What people don't realize is Apple Pay also takes a slice.
Right.
That's why Apple Pay took so long at first, like, because Apple at first tried to be like, yeah, I'm taking 30%, like everything. And no. That's not going to work. No one even knows exactly what Apple's cut is, but I guarantee you it's more generous than anyone else, because banks were like, why would we want to use this,
Right.
And there's still big retailers that don't, like Walmart. Walmart doesn't do Apple Pay. Home Depot, the big, because they're basically holding out. They're like, look, we're so freaking big, we can do our own. Like, we want everyone to download Walmart app anyways.
Right.
So when I read the article that you sent me on the Apple thing, um, and of course, USDC is going to be like the first to kind of do it. But the reason why is Apple's opening up, but it's not wide open. You got to be approved. You got to go along with their program. They need to make sure you're an accredited. So obviously Bitcoin wallets aren't really whatever, but I do have hope that like Coinbase, a big exchange, Coinbase or Kraken, if they do it, then we may actually get tap to pay native spending of all different types of coins from our phone. But just to start with USDC is huge. So we
It's a
definitely have Europe to thank.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to get lost with the American kind of myopia, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, everything revolves around the dollar, around US
Mm-hmm.
and all that, but there are countries, the EU, UK, and specific countries, right, that really do kind of play a really pivotal role
Mm-hmm.
in the consumer protection area for us in a really kind of a backdoor channel, right? Through
Yep.
Apple, all of a sudden, it's going to
Yep.
open up potentially like who knows, right? But to
Well,
your
another thing is Europe is forcing Apple. Apple's going to start allowing you to side load apps.
Mhm.
Now, if anyone doesn't know what that is, currently everything has to go through the App Store, right? It is the official gatekeeper. On Android, you can go through the Google Play Store, all right, or you can just download an app like from the internet, put it
Right.
on an SD card, and you could load it into your phone. Apple's being forced by Europe to actually start allowing that. Now, Apple's going to do a kicking and screaming and still probably going to try to make sure that you do all these things because they do have a right, so to speak, because they don't want to allow malware.
Right.
Because, I have an iPhone, you got an iPhone. One of the things that people expect with iPhones is that we don't got to deal with all that crazy malwares, be it
Mhm.
whatever, viruses, Android shenanigans. All right. Like, look, we pay a premium to have a pretty phone and we don't get infected with junk. All
Right.
right. So Apple does have to at least maintain that, but that's going to be huge for wallets as well, because then if Apple tries to, the App Store and Google Play Store decide Bitcoin's bad, right? And they just shut down all Bitcoin, you could still load it sidecar onto your phone. If not, go through the web or something like that.
Right, right. Well, and the other thing is that you know, by doing that, at, it's just going to open up so many avenues to development.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, like the big retailers, the Walmarts, the Home
Mm-hmm.
Depots, you name it. Those big retailers, they will have enough of a development team so that
Mm-hmm.
they say, okay, you know what? Let's split off literally a group of 3 or 4 people. It's
Mm-hmm.
all going to be API based, and they
Mm-hmm.
can do trials, in short delivery times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to see what it's like. And this is a real opportunity for Apple to themselves be a
Mm-hmm.
leader in this area, but also open it up to potentially, there's services already out there
Yep.
who are working on it. I could think of maybe something like Cash App, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's very Bitcoin friendly, right? In a lot of ways, they could theoretically develop their own, besides just Cash App, it's a cryptocurrency,
Mm-hmm.
Cash App payments or whatever, crypto cash or whatever you want to call it. And they have this kind of already this huge user base that can be easily extended out into,
Well, they do have it already. They were one of the first that Apple let do it. Not Cash App, but as you know, Cash App is owned by Square. So Square was one of the first to get tap to pay. And that's huge because, Square already has those little portable readers and you can just stick your card in and it's Bluetooth. That's great. But now you can literally tap your
the
phone. And
phone.
now, of course, iPhones could tap another iPhone and you could do, Apple Cash and send it that way.
Right. It's a big deal. I think it's a really big development. It'll be exciting to see what products come out there, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of like I'm seeing something like like a Stripe, right? How they kind of
Mm-hmm.
redid e-commerce, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we've called e-commerce. I could certainly see some sort of kind of a small party coming out with some really slick way of
Yep.
instituting payments with not only USDC, which would be easy to acquire, I think relatively easy
Mm-hmm.
for enough people that have an interest in it, and then also any other crypto. So
Or
that's really
Strike. Strike's big enough where I'm sure they can get it approved. And then they do all the, you're sending Bitcoin and it's instantly being cashed out and they're receiving cash. But for all intents and purposes, from the user's perspective, they're just sending money, but they're sending it over the Lightning Network.
right, right. So that's really exciting. I think if anyone knows any info or any dev teams working on it, please leave a comment. Let us know if you've heard of any kind of rumor mill stuff going on already with that.
Yeah.
It's I think that's going to be it's going to be big for just exposure
Yep.
purposes, right? And
Yep.
so that's really exciting. And so that's about the newest wallet stuff that's going on right now, but we have some old wallet stuff. Also,
Ancient.
ancient
Ancient
wallets.
wallet.
Yeah, Satoshi era Bitcoin awakens. I'm reading this one article here. It says
What was
1000.
the
I'm
what
sorry.
was the block number again? I want to look it up.
It says 1005 BTC mined in 2010 on the move. Um, let's see if I can find
Does it say the block?
let me send it to you. I'll go ahead and include this in the links. Also, I included tons of links in the previous videos. Our goal is to have links that refer to the topics we talk about
Mm-hmm.
in the description of the videos. So if I miss something or you want to share something maybe that kind of supplements what has been shared, please let us know. Feel free to do so. Um, so yeah, uh, this is a big deal. There's BTC apparently from 2010, 11, and 12. Um,
And this was a Coinbase transaction, wasn't it? Because they said it was for 50 Bitcoin in a block. I'm like, well, the reward was 50. So it's probably a Coinbase. Oh, obviously, back then, so many people were mining, you know,
right.
regular people mining on their CPUs. It's not like you had to be a big industrial miner. Most people's Bitcoins that they were getting from mining on the computers, they're all via Coinbase. And the best thing about these old wallets, like I had mentioned in our last episode, is I love how it screws with the heuristics. It really screws with the coin metrics, because they probably labeled these as, gone, or dead, so when they awaken, it sort of messes with the algorithm because then they have to statistically, reassess how liquid are these older blocks, there's the old coins that have been sitting for a decade because just because they haven't moved, obviously it's really common for a lot of the OGs in Bitcoin, they just don't move their coins unless they absolutely need to just sell some, if
Right.
anything, so.
If anything, yeah. If you click through some of those links, you'll be able to see them. I'm going to
Did you put them in the chat? Oh, there you
yeah,
go. Yeah, you did.
that second one, you can click on the hash for the transaction and it'll take you to the link for the block.
Is there a clickable hash?
There should be. I was able to get to the transaction and the block from there.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Who knows who it is though?
I like how it says this transaction could save 52% on fees. At least that's what I
Yeah. If they had gone to a modern address, actually it's funny when I talk to Bitcoiners how a lot of people have these idiosyncrasies with moving coins, like they're just like, I don't want to move them, and it's just like, dude, it's not that big a deal. Like for me, it's different because I like to use Liana. I have time locks, so I have to move them, at least once every year or two, I have to move them, so let's see, what block was it? 20. Oh no, that's the new one. Go ahead and click back to the previous. What's the original time? Okay, scroll down. Okay, click on, yeah, that one, the 1000. Okay, now click on one of those 50s. Okay, so someone consolidated all these Coinbase. Okay. Oh, no, scroll up to the top. So this one is from 2010. Yeah, so this is pretty much right after Satoshi era, like this is, when did Satoshi disappear? He disappeared in like 2010, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, so this was like early OGs. Like this could be a Bitcoin developer. This could be, Greg Maxwell. Like who knows? It could just be some random whatever person. What I mentioned earlier is I wanted to make sure that when I see these old addresses, I'm always just like, was it just one or was it a whole bunch? Because if it's a whole bunch, then it's like a real full wallet, Even though this predates seed words. This is before seed words, okay? Back in these days, your wallet just held in a data file, a .dat, all the private keys for every single address that you generated, assuming you generated fresh addresses, which it looks like they
Apparently
did.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go back. Are all those different addresses? Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to tell because those are the transaction IDs. So you have to click on one, look at the address, and then click on another one. So, oh, look, see, you can't even see it because this is before an address, So this actual transaction, people forget you don't actually have to send Bitcoin to an actual address. You can send it directly to a public key. That
Mm.
was, I think, the first 6 months, right? The first 3 to 6 months. I don't know if it's 3 or 6 months. Bitcoin was out. Addresses didn't even exist. So you had to send right to a public key. Then Satoshi, finished this whatever spec, and we got Bitcoin addresses. So these are just raw public keys from blocks.
Wow.
Um, Blocks that have no transactions, because back then there weren't very many transactions. Um, so I'm curious. I'd have to look at it on my chain, but it is pretty cool to see stuff like this, because it reminds you that there are a lot of diamond hands, But for all we know, maybe this was a recovery. Maybe someone's been spending years trying to get back into their wallet and they finally got back in. It's hard to
Right.
tell.
The good thing is that to your point earlier, I'm not sure if we were already recording, but you see one old wallet is one thing. When you see multiple old wallets,
Mhm.
it's almost a sense of kind of calm, right? When you see multiple old wallets.
Yeah. Now, if it was one of the big thing is if we ever see one of Satoshi's addresses move, that's when everyone's gonna freak out. And rightfully so. I mean, that would be a very big event because part of so much is predicated on those coins just being kind of dead,
Mhm.
I've wished for years that I have a feeling that Satoshi's dead. I just do. Like I thought for the longest time it was Hal. Now I'm not so sure. But regardless, I think Satoshi's either dead or he did one of two things. He immediately he went and destroyed his keys, so there's no way he could spend them.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people are against that idea because they're like, well, why would he do that? Like, why wouldn't he just provably destroy them, right? Burn them. Well,
Right.
part of it is all of the modern ways that we can burn coins on Bitcoin, they didn't exist before Satoshi, whatever. Like
That's a good point.
you can easily burn by setting to an op return. That's great. Op returns didn't exist. You know, Satoshi didn't add those. We did, to help with spam or whatever. Well, why didn't he just send to a provably unspendable key? Well, that wasn't exactly that was kind of tricky, and it still is kind of tricky to prove it out, unless you have, because we still don't have a real standard for that. We're developing a standard now for it for Taproot because it's important that we have that for various reasons. So I'm always thinking if Satoshi's still around, why doesn't he just finally take his wallet and burn the 1 million? Now that's problematic. Probably why he won't do that because he probably already threw away the keys. He, she, they, whatever.
Right.
But if he didn't, you got to be really careful because that transaction is going to be analyzed by every, government agency. Everyone's gonna want to know, okay, well, where's this guy located? I mean, we're pretty sure we know he's in America
Right.
or whatever, but that's always going to be a huge thing if his coins ever move. Just move, not to
Right.
Coinbase. If
Right.
they just move, if one of his addresses, now that kind of gets into what we talked about, I think, on the first episode is which addresses are Satoshi's, like we kind of know there's certain patterns that we've developed for all these early ones, and none of them overlap with addresses that we know aren't Satoshi's. Because there's so much on Bitcoin Talk forum early days where, the very first Bitcoin transaction was to Hal Finney, and I don't even think that one's moved, but we know that one's to Hal. All right. Now that one moves, we know his wife still has access to his Bitcoin. By all accounts, she doesn't. But there's a very high certainty of a strong correlation of which addresses actually belong to Satoshi. So if any of those move, it's going to probably open up a whole can of speculation, not just for the nerds like us, but Wall Street. Remember? Because Wall Street's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, if he's alive, what happens if he drops a million, sells a million?
Right.
Like, totally dumps the price. I mean, they got to take all this into effect, and the market has not priced that in. They have not priced in, by all accounts, the market has priced in the cap being 20 million. I mean, we always say 21 million, but really it's 20 minus another 3 million, really it's 17 million.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Like
Lost and forgotten
the
kind of.
maximum is 17 million by all accounts, but who knows?
Well, yeah, we shall see. I mean, the cool thing is that you know, it's all just sitting there waiting to move, and hopefully it does. I mean, in a certain way, I would like to see some of it move to see what happens. I don't want the
Mm-hmm.
markets to kind of get upset and all that, because obviously we all have a vested interest in kind of maintaining the store of value that we've been accustomed to. But the reality is that these wallets having come up from that era is it's kind of a big deal. It's cool to see. It's caused a lot of questions, right? And like you mentioned earlier, were they found? Was it somebody else? Were they restored?
Well,
And
not only that, but it's interesting they moved it to a SegWit address. That's kind of curious. Not a
what
Taproot address.
why do you say that that's curious?
Well, it's curious because my thinking was maybe it's an OG Bitcoiner, like developer, programmer, someone who's early miner. And Taproot is the newest addressing scheme, and Taproot probably has the most privacy. So if you're thinking someone who has not moved coins for this long really values privacy, but those are all just assumptions. We don't know that they value privacy. We just know they didn't move them. They just happen to move it to the newest. Oh, not the newest, because SegWit is BC1Q. Taproot would be BC1P. But I thought that was interesting
That is interesting.
because who knows? I mean, we're just grasping at straws at this point, but
Yeah, yeah. But they might have their own reasons for whatever reason. They might just say, okay, this is the one that I want to go with just because it's kind of more stable at this point,
mm-hmm,
if you will.
mm-hmm.
That's always a concern as well, I think. And um, so I want to really kind of dig in a little bit more into restoring wallets.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, that's a biggie, right? I mean, like, who knows where these wallets were, so to speak? I mean,
Mm-hmm,
we all kind of know where everything was, but
mm-hmm.
what precipitated this? Like, say somebody maybe, oh, they kind of went on some kind of, spiritual quest that lasted
Yep,
10 years, and
yep.
they came back and they're like, all right, I'm ready to cash out, right? So, but I actually went through that process recently with a friend where we did a firmware upgrade to his wallet, and then we had to restore wallets and
Mm-hmm,
restore the wallet. But I'd like to just kind of uh, get some get some context from you on like
mm-hmm.
when are kind of some common times when you would have to go through the restoration process, and maybe what is, or people will see restore wallet. What does that mean?
Mm. Well, first, to tie it to our last point, though, that's probably the number one reason why you would want to move your old coins to not just a newer address, but a modern wallet, you know. I'm surprised we don't see more stuff like this. And we're seeing it more and more. These old wallets suddenly just moving to a new address and they stop, right? And people are like, well, why did they do that? Well, these old wallets, they did not have seed phrases, like I said. Everything was a digital file. Now that's very problematic because it can be corrupted, you know. You can't stamp it in metal. You don't have all the luxuries that we have with the BIP32, BIP39 HD wallet. So that is the number one thing, is backup ability, you know, because now we're about to talk about backups and restoring backups. And currently it's so much easier. You know, 12 words is way easier than a digital file, because a digital file has to touch a computer, you know, so you got to be super secure about that file and how it's treated and this and that. So I just want to tie that to recovery, because they are kind of linked, because
Yeah,
again,
very much
if
so.
any, because we're going to see this more and more. I'm sure we're going to see more and more, because I think the last couple I saw, one of them was from 2013. Same thing. They moved to a new address and then stopped, you know, and then people were like, well, why would you do that? Like, probably because they want a modern wallet with a modern hardware wallet. Like these old files, they are not supported by any hardware wallet, you know, like they have to be on the newer form. Now to your question, restoring. Oh gosh. The first thing you should do, like this is what we always tell people, is when you set up a new wallet and you get through all the steps, the first thing you want to do is transfer over $1, you know, transfer over a few bucks to the wallet and then wipe it, you know. Now, if your wallet has a test net mode, then you don't have to transfer any money. You can just transfer imaginary coins, you know, to get practice with it. But transferring $5 right now will do the job too. Transfer $5, wipe the hardware wallet, and go through the process of restoring it. You know, everyone needs to, anyone with a hardware wallet or any type of wallet needs to go through the process, because you don't want to wait until you dropped your phone in the water and you get a new phone from the Apple store. And then you're like, oh my God, where's all my Bitcoin? And you have no idea what to do. Trust me, you're going to have a panic attack and you're going to freak out, you know, and I'll show you in a second, there's so many things you can do wrong. Like there's so many people who think they've lost their coins and they haven't. It's happened to me and I know exactly what I'm doing, where I'm just like, I'm not panicking because mentally I know what I'm doing, but I've had like some incidents where I'm just like, wait, what's going on here? You know, and I just remain calm and then you figure it out, you know, but that's that's huge. Wallet recovery is something everyone should have walked through. And sadly, most people haven't.
Right. Yeah, I think I mentioned this in one of the previous episodes. I have a buddy of mine who, is all about it, and he basically
Mhm.
said, "I've never gone through the restoration
Yep.
process." And
Robert hasn't. I'm gonna throw him under the bus. Robert has not gone through the process. Robert, if you're watching this, he's a fellow Bitcoiner. He's a friend of ours.
yeah,
He's been through the Crypto Academy. He's been taught by moi, and he still has not cleared and restored. So,
of course,
yeah,
he's using a free Arculus too. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, I wasn't gonna throw him under the bus that bad, Betty. Okay, but he's got a treasure too. He's got a treasure too.
okay,
All right. Yeah.
fair enough, fair enough. But that's best practices, right? Muscle
Mhm.
memory. You got to go through that process, and now that he's gone through it, and I kind of walked him through it, the process, we did it multiple times actually. I said,
Good.
this is what you got to do. You got to just get comfortable with it, and then you start building up your stack, moving it into it as
Mhm.
you gain some comfort. You have more skin in the game,
Mhm.
but it's going to be just that much easier, right?
Yep.
But so obviously, it's important you have, for a modern wallet, right? You have your seed phrases and just kind of know your wallet, right? Know your hardware really well
Mhm.
and have that comfort level. What kind of stuff do you think that this person that moved this coin could have encountered when trying to, let's just say that maybe, let's just say they had all their info, but if they didn't, they're trying to restore their wallet. I mean, is, I mean, obviously it's been a long time, right? So
Oh yeah,
memory could have been an issue. A lot of people say, well, I depend on my memory for it. You know, you get clubbed upside the head one day and all of a sudden you might be a little foggy, but you know,
right.
age does that
But
too.
it's also memory again on the computer. When you have these old wallets, the guy who has all his coins in the garbage dump, right? So he has it on a hard drive, um, and it's rotting in a landfill, right?
Right, right.
The problem with that is, look, let's say his was a very old wallet like this, which I'm pretty sure it was. It was pre-seed phrase.
Right.
Well, now you have to think about data being corrupted, like first of all, there's a lot that goes on in a landfill. Okay. There's like methane, all that stuff is rotting. There's tremendous heat.
Finicky.
Now, granted, you
Oh,
could do a lot of restoration. I mean, I'm sure with enough NSA level, whatever, forensic analysis, he can get all that data, but that's just something you don't want to have to deal with in general. I mean, okay, granted, that's a hard drive buried in a dump, but we also forget our media right now, like where's that little SD card? Yeah, all the memory in our devices, all the flash, all the stuff in our phone, flash in general, like your regular cheap SD cards, if you read the fine print, it's like 5 years. That's kind of
mhm.
what they give you, 5 years with the proper conditions. That means if you're in Arizona, you're not leaving the SD card in the car, which I've done that a lot. I lived in Arizona and I have, SD cards in my car in the summer where it can get 130 degrees, whatever. And I noticed like, summer ends, and after a year or two, the SD cards like do not work right, or they just have a lot of issues. Um,
Yeah, like up north, you know, it's cold. People store stuff in basements. It's
yep,
damp. It's cold. Three,
yep.
4 years, all of a sudden, like stuff could start rusting, like just from sitting there,
Yep.
right?
Hard
Inside
drives,
the
hard
house.
drives, I think is 10 years. I think the best is like burning onto a CD, that'll give you like 20, maybe a little bit longer, but it depends what quality of CD and all these other factors. The whole point is that digital media is not, again, long
Permanent.
term.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
that's
permanent.
why Stampin' Metal, Word, stuff like this is much more robust. So people with old wallets like this, that's something that they got to keep in mind where they can't just leave the hard drive sitting there for a decade. They have to move it every once in a while, move it to a new hard drive and then store that hard drive somewhere. So that's the beauty of the HD wallet, a hierarchical deterministic wallet. That's the name for the ones with the seed phrase. That's the beauty of having that is you can back it up on paper. It's easy enough to write down on paper.
Mhm, mhm.
But of course, the website, if you want to bring up the website,
Yeah, let's go ahead and.
so there's a really good website, and that kind of brings up, I mean, there's so many pitfalls, but this is like the number one pitfall, I would say. So this is a site started by Cold Card, how to recover. Because on any wallet, any modern wallet, it isn't just the seed words, right? The seed words helps you get to your root. You got to
Right, right.
think of it like a tree. You have a root and you can grow out all these branches. As soon as you create a wallet, you have what's called, if you scroll down, you have what's called a derivation path. And generally it looks like the very top one, right? M448400, right? And that's not even actually your standard one. The standard one is generally a number followed by 00 whatever. So if you create a SegWit wallet, it has a certain number. If you create a Taproot wallet, it has a certain number. So you lose your wallet. Then you put the seed words in and you're trying to recover because you lost your hardware wallet too. So many people cannot find their funds because they don't realize the manufacturer went and got a little fancy on them. They're like, you know what? We're not going to stick with the convention. We're going to use it a little bit different, So that's why if you scroll down, you'll see all these different wallets all have different customizable path. Bitbox 01, 02, like that 49 there, that is custom. Like your standard wallet would not have the number 49 there. They decided to do it. Like it should look like, M44000. So they customize it. So this is why a lot of people say it's not enough to store your seed phrase. You also need to store your derivation path. Now, if you don't customize it like Jade, these are the standard ones. 49 is, I think that's SegWit. On 84, I don't remember off the top of my head, but each number stands for something. This is how they should look, 4900. But you can see with other ones are 4400. Other ones got like the cold card Mark 1. Like, what is that? 44, 48, 49, 84.
Yeah.
So they were, and the manufacturers have reasons for doing this, maybe for whatever. Generally speaking, they'll move away from that. Oh, those are bars. Okay, so the bars is saying it's this or this or this. Okay, so that's not actual one derivation path. So these actually are custom. 44, I think, is legacy. 48 is SegWit. I'm not sure what 49 is. They all, whatever, have different ones. But this was a wallet created to help people when they're recovering, because again, it's not enough to know your seed words. You want to also know your recovery path in case you use something non-standard. That's something you may want to etch in the metal too, which a lot of people do. Or at least write it down somewhere, because you could probably write that down in various places unencrypted, and you're not really going to hurt yourself because you don't really give away any information.
So is a derivation path, just to be clear, is a derivation path something like just M-44 apostrophe, or is on your hardware device, it would be a longer string?
Yeah, so on your hardware device, it would be M-44 hyphen, and then it will be slash 84 hyphen slash 0 hyphen slash 0 hyphen,
Okay.
So 44 is the number that represents what the major standard is, whether it's, SegWit or Taproot or this or that, and then the next number 0 is your home address, and then the last, sorry, no, that 0 is the child. So that's like your most basic root. If you have account number 1, remember we talked about accounts, that's where this number goes up.
The first
the last the last number is for your change address. So 0 is your main wallet, and 1 is your change addresses, which again, those of you who have been in a more sophisticated wallet knows there's 2 groupings of addresses. You have a whole thing for your receive, and you have a whole separate path for your change addresses. And that number can go up to like 2 billion. So you can customize it and go crazy. Like if you want, you can set up a wallet where instead of 84, you put 84,264. The wallet will work fine. But when you reset it, you lose it, you're trying to recover it, you're going to have to search through, and there's programs that'll search through. You'll have to look through every single path in order to find your wallet. So this website is a great reminder that be aware of what your derivation path is, And if you have something like Sparrow or Nunchuck or a lot of the wallets, it should show you that derivation path right there in the settings of your wallet.
Cool. Do you think that's one of the features of Sparrow that people like, is the derivation path, or is that just kind of secondary, you think?
Oh, one of many. I mean, Sparrow just gives you everything. But yeah, that's a huge one, because Sparrow lets you customize the derivation path. So you can actually, write in whatever number you want, Trezor 44. And so there's some good software too to help recover when you lose it. But this is a good reminder. Pay attention to what kind of wallet you have. Like if you don't know what kind of wallet you have, like I don't know if I have a SegWit, I don't know Taproot, I don't know how a legacy address. I don't, so know what kind of wallet you have. SegWit is the one that starts with BC1Q. All right. Taproot's the newest BC1P. Legacy addresses always start with a 1. All right, those are pay to public keys. And then there's the pay to public key hash. Those are the addresses that start with a 3. So each one of those should correspond to one of these numbers, right? But you need to know either what number it is or what type of wallet it is. So if you're trying to restore things, you kind of know what you're doing.
Now, just to be clear, this if you have your seed words in front of you and it's very fresh, you're learning it, you don't
Mhm.
necessarily need these. You don't necessarily need these paths in front of you. You're just that's kind of these paths are like for true kind of loss recovery, right?
Well, it'd be it's better to put it in terms of here. Maybe I should share my screen. Can I share my screen? So let me share.
Yes. Let
Oh,
me.
you have it disabled again. You disabled me.
I'm a
I'm not even.
disabler instead of
You're
an
a
enabler.
disabler. Can
Uh,
you enable instead of disable?
I don't know. That's a bit risky with you.
That's true. That's true.
Let me
Do.
more multiple yeah, go ahead. Shoot.
All right, share, and I'm gonna share my whole screen. I'll share
Here's
this.
Sparrow Wallet.
All right, and here is a wallet. Is there any funds in this? No, this is just a test wallet. Okay, so this is a fun wallet. Go to settings. All right, so see here, you can see it in the settings. They always show you your XPub, but see, there's the derivation path,
Uh,
8400. Now, for the most part, this is what native SegWit is. So almost all the wallets right now usually default right now to native SegWit. All right. If you have a wallet that doesn't show any of these, you're on native SegWit. Okay. So you're
okay.
most likely 8400. Again, most wallets now have standardized this. A wallet stopped doing what's on that web page, but not all wallets. I can't really speak. I'll just speak for the major Bitcoin wallets. But if you do have some custom wallet, like BitKey, right? BitKey hides all of this from you. So we have no idea what your derivation path is, but BitKey may have it where they write a different number in here, just kind of like, because technically this second number represents what the coin is. 0 is Bitcoin, 1 is testnet, you know, 2 is like Bitcoin Cash, like 80 is Ethereum, 100,000 is Solana. Like every coin claims a number and everyone just kind of agrees not to use the same number because these numbers just go to the billion. So there's no need to. But you can look at listings for every single number and what coin it represents. So again, Sparrow, it's really easy to see. But if I change it to another wallet like Legacy, do I want to clear this? Sure. So I'm going to clear it and say I'm going to do a new 12 words. I'll just do my usual abandon, because if I let it choose words for me, then it's going to make me like, it's going to test me, make me
Yeah.
put it back. This is a very bad C phrase. Do not use this. Okay. All right. Create, import. Look at that. 44. So
Mm,
44 is legacy, 84 is native SegWit. Nested SegWit, I think, is like 45. Taproot, I think, is the 86 or whatever. But my whole point is that you probably want to either take note of just one number, really. Just know, like, look, are you, you know, an 86? Are you an 84? Are you let's see. Oh, actually, this shows you some too. I was looking at this site thing. So you see 44 is a multi-account,
mm,
49 is pay to work public key hash or pay to script hash. So these are ones that start with like a 3. 85, oh, that's BIP 85. That's different. Um, so there's a whole bunch of different options. So this website's really fun to play with because um, it shows you how diverse the seed words are. So if I generate a fresh set of seed words, 12, right? So here's a brand new wallet.
mm-hmm.
All right. Then I look at BIP 44. So this is legacy wallet. See, it's 44,
Right.
0. This tells you what it is. Purpose, then the coin, Bitcoin's always 0, account, and then is it change address or not? And you can see all the addresses. And the address number goes by the last number, 0, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, it changes the number before. So every new address you create is numbered, and it's numbered by this last number. All right. So you would think that your seed phrase only creates these addresses, but you would be wrong, totally wrong. Because look, if I go to 49, whole different set of seed words.
Mm,
Sorry, addresses. These all start with 3. Same seed words, right? But look, the path changed. We just changed one number. And then if we go to 84, look at these. These are segment addresses. You know, all that changed was this number, and you get a whole different set of addresses, you know? So you could have tons of wallets, infinite number of wallets tied to your seed words. So it's really important. Most people don't have infinite, right? Most
right.
people just have 1 or 2. Most people just said a Bitcoiner nowadays, generally speaking, if they're more advanced, they got a SegWit and they got a Taproot, you know, or possibly they got accounts or they're using other features, you know.
Mhm.
This one's nested SegWit, you know, look at M00. Like this is a kind of a funny path. So this is a good one I like to use when I'm teaching about understanding seed words and understanding recovery, because you can really quickly see how you can get all different types of addresses from the same seed words, right? Your seed words is the M. That's like the root of the tree.
Right.
And then from there, you can grow out and you can go any direction you want. And it's always going to change what
So
kind of addresses you can generate.
M is probably for mnemonic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so 44 is the kind of Bitcoin version, if you will,
Yeah, that's the
the release.
vert the BIP. You
The,
know, that these are all under BIP 44. 49 is BIP 49, which specified legacy addresses. BIP
now,
84 specified SegWit addresses.
I just want to clarify one thing is that so I have a wallet, right? And I'm using it coming and going. Can I use one wallet with different BIPs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. But that's another thing. How do we define wallet? You know, because that's a whole separate topic. A
Okay. Yeah.
lot of people call addresses
Mhm.
wallets.
Right.
And that always confuses me because a lot of people just pick one address and they send all their funds to that address, right? So in a sense, in their mind, that address is a wallet, you
Right.
know, and you always see these weird metrics where it's like, oh my gosh, there's 50 million Bitcoin wallets. You know, that means there's 50 million people that use Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, well, how do you know that? Like, well, there's 50 million addresses that have funds, not unique addresses, just addresses.
Mhm.
Okay, well, what does that mean? Like, if that's your definition of a wallet, I have 100 wallets, you know, because I got a whole bunch of addresses, you know, that are part of my quote unquote wallet, you know.
Sort of like
So
if somebody says email. Are you talking about the message or the email address kind of thing?
yeah, exactly. So I would define again a wallet as something like this. Like you have a seed word and you have a SegWit wallet, you
Mhm.
know, so you have a certain derivation path, right?
Right.
And then all those addresses that you may have funds on, that's one wallet. Now, that's a true definition. And that coin metrics people doesn't like because now they can't count, you know, like really no one knows how many people have wallets on Bitcoin just because of what I told you. It's
Right.
impossible.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the only metric they can count are how many addresses,
Right.
you know, but everyone, like if you're dollar cost averaging each week and you're getting a new address, every week you're getting another wallet, another wallet, another wallet. So after a year, you're going to have 52 wallets. Those aren't wallets. You only have one wallet.
And
You
that
know, you have 52 addresses.
and then to kind of further complicate things, if you have a hardware wallet, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
you can call that your wallet,
Mm-hmm.
and you can within that one you can have multiple accounts, right? Which are kind of wallets as well,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so this is a really good point is it bears mentioning that you should be as explicit as possible when kind of communicating these ideas, right? Like just between us and to other people that, well, it's a hardware wallet. You can say wallet, and maybe once the point is well made, you can call it a wallet, but
Yeah.
initially it's a hardware wallet, or it's just a wallet with multiple addresses. And a wallet, you can call it a wallet address, right? Or
It's much better. The term that's really much more appropriate, in my opinion, and most people's, is to call these a keychain, you know, because that's really what they hold. They hold all your keys. Now, in reality, they don't even hold that. They only hold one key, right? Your mnemonic. And from your mnemonic, you can generate deterministically. Now, deterministically means you can generate the same keys over and over and over again from that root key. Billions of keys, like let's just say infinite keys, you know? So by all accounts, a hardware wallet is just a keychain with a master key. Remember, the janitor has the master key that opens all the doors. Yeah. So you could have different rooms with different locks, but the master key will open all the locks. So back to account, I want to cover that, might as well. So I just created, again, I put in a set of seed words. I have it set to SegWit. See, it says 84. I'm going to click apply. All right. So now we just created a new wallet. All right. So this is the derivation path.
Right.
This is the XPub. The XPub is
the public key.
It's the XPub is the master key that could only create public keys. All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it can't create private keys. So the whole point of this is,
but it's important to note that it's the master public key, essentially.
Yes, the master public key.
Right, right. Because there will be tons of public keys, but this is
there'll be tons of public keys. Yeah, every single address has its own public key,
right?
Which you can see, like Sparrow shows you. If you double click an address, it's right there. That's the public key. You don't even realize it. You know, this is the address. This is the public key. But this master public key is what creates all the addresses. Now, the point of a master public key is if you have a watch only wallet, you know, because if you have a hardware wallet, you never want the private keys to touch the computer. So when you have a piece of software on your computer, because people get confused, they're like, okay, so Sparrow, I have a wallet on my computer and I can see my balance, right? If I send Bitcoin to my hardware wallet address on the screen, it shows up in Sparrow. It shows up on my computer. And people are like, well, that means it's touching the computer. Like, no, it's not. Like, all that your computer has access to is this bad boy. And this bad boy can generate all your addresses. Therefore, it can scan the blockchain to see if, funds just arrived at this address. I'm going to update your balance. Okay, that's how you know. So the X-Priv, all right, Priv for private, that's what lies and never should leave your hardware wallet. You know, technically speaking, I don't want to get too technical, but this could be called an XPub, a YPub, or a ZPub. You know, they just call it different things depending on if it's SegWit, if it's legacy, if it's whatever, Taproot, but they're all the same thing. You know, this is your master public key. Now, the reason why I showed all this, Benny, is I want to show the account thing real quick. So people are like, well, what's an account? Well, what if you had
I want to just mention, if you're not listening or have only been half listening, this is the time to check in, right? This is where it gets good.
If you're listening to this on podcast, you may want to see the video to see what I'm doing here, you know? So if you have your wallet here, all right, and let's say everything from here is from Coinbase, you know, it's all KYC, but now you want to do some non-KYC, all right, and you don't want to mix them up, you know, and you don't want to have to label them, whatever. So most people will like create a whole new set of seed words just to create a whole nother wallet, not realizing you don't need to do all that. Actually, there's a feature built in by the BIP creators, you know, by the Bitcoin developers for this, and it's called add an account. And watch what happens, right? Instead of 8401, you're going to see the number change. We're going to add an account.
Well, it's going to turn into 01.
Yep, it's going to change to 8401.
Right.
All right. So now I got a new tab, whole new set of addresses. All right. I have a whole seemingly new wallet. And you'll note I have a new XPub, right? Because it's a totally isolated, separate thing. But same set of seed words. I didn't have to enter a whole new set of seed words. My one set of seed words, you know, could just go ahead and create this whole wallet. So every time you change this derivation path, you're going to create what most people call a whole new wallet, right? But they're all tied to the same seed words because that root key can create infinite number of keys. Now, you don't want to go infinite because you don't want to go non-standard. That's where you kind of can get into trouble unless you really know what you're doing, you know, because some people try to like put in a custom number to throw thieves off because they're like, well, if someone gets a hold of my seed words and I don't have a passphrase, I don't like passphrases, they're still not going to be able to find my funds because I'm not at zero. I'm at 165,325. Well, dude, they can scan. They have software. Like they will find your money, and it won't take them that long. It'll probably take them a few seconds to scan through all those. So don't do that. If you're thinking about that, don't do that.
Now, to be clear, this is a feature that has existed for a very long time.
Since the beginning. Yeah.
It's not some sort of like
Nope.
newfangled kind of trying to be cutesy.
Nope.
Some dev was trying to say, oh, this is cryptographically legitimate and has been in place and has been proofed and verified since the beginning, essentially. But it's only recently kind of been surfaced. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So this being said, so let's look at this. I'm going to put this inside of a notepad real quick. So this is your XPub. All right. And then you also have your derivation path. So if you're a single sig, just one basic key sort of user, you may want to note this, obviously this isn't going to be the one, this account one. And really you just need to make note of the 84. All right. Because you have your seed words, right? These things should never touch a computer. But when you recover your seed words, just in case the money doesn't show up right away, and you're like, oh my God, it's all gone, before you freak out, which again, by the way, if you recover your wallet, notice this wallet has no money in it. But when I click on addresses, where was that one? I swear there was one that showed a balance. Like it'll show that these have been used before, even if there's no money in them. So if you open a wallet where none of the addresses have ever been touched ever, they have no history, then that's not your wallet. Like if you got rugged, you would have all the addresses that used to have your money that no longer have your money, so that's just a fun tip there. So with single sig, you want to have your seed words and you want to note either the derivation path, here, I'll write this down, derivation path, or wallet type. So like Segway, which again, in every wallet should come out to 84.
Right.
All right. Now, the reason why I brought this up is generally you don't need to record this because this can be easily generated from your seed words in the 84. The reason why this is important is if you do multi-sig, so when you have multi-sig and you got multiple set of seed words. So if you're one of those people who's just kind of fancy and you have multiple sets of seed words, it's a 2 of 3. So you have seed word set 1, 2, and 3, right? You also want to take note of the XPubs. So you're going to have XPub 1, XPub 2, XPub 3. Why is that important? Because if you lose, let's say you're one of those people who doesn't even, let's say you have a 2 of 3 multi-sig, and you don't want to keep your seed words, right? Because you're like, I got 2 of 3. So if one of the devices goes bad, I still have 2 other. Right. As long as 2 of the devices don't go bad. Now that's a bad idea for several reasons, because you don't want to trust devices. Okay. And God forbid, they're both in a geolocation that gets hit by the same hurricane or whatever, and they get destroyed. But if you did do this and you lost like one of your keys and you didn't have these XPubs saved, even though you had 2 of your seed phrases or 2 of your devices, you may not be able to still sign for your funds, or be able to recover your wallet because you don't have this information as well. So that's something I always want to point out, because you'll hear a lot of times people say with multi-sig, you have like some extra burden, you do have some extra stuff that you don't need to, I say need,
but it's good practice.
It's good practice. It's very good practice to know. And also the derivation path, you want to know, is it the same on all the wallets? Because what if the cold card set the first key up on 84? The J did it on 84, but then your third one was a Kobo and it did, it did this. Right. You would have to know that when you're recovering, assuming the device got destroyed and you're recovering them all from their seed phrases, you'd want to know that. Now, it's best when you do this just to make sure they're all the same. Okay. But a lot of people make the mistake of not paying attention to this information at all. Like they're like, what? I didn't even know what a derivation path was, like I had no idea.
So if you
So,
stamp your seeds, get your the phrases down, right? All 12
mhm,
words or 24 if you're choosing that. And off in the corner, put 84 or 89 or 49 or whatever the case may be, right? It's probably good. And you know what? I'm a firm believer in being kind to your future self,
mhm,
right? It's two numbers. It's not going to kill you. And chances are, if somebody's trying to get to you, they're already going to get it anyway, right?
yep.
So it's one of those things where it can come in handy. It's good practice. It's a little just extra verbose that's going to
Mhm.
go a long way into verifying what you've done for yourself, right? So
Because the thing is remember how I said how right now the default is
second,
always SegWit, right?
yeah,
The problem with that is it's right now,
right.
So if you don't pay attention to it, you could do a recovery without paying attention to it and everything just works, right? Because the wallet just defaults. But what happens in 10, 15 years? You're doing a recovery. And now the default to any wallet isn't SegWit. That's old. It's now, again, Taproot or some other update. Well, then your money's not going to show up because really all you have to do is click the little drop down and select SegWit. But if you never wrote down and it's not even in your brain what any of this is, you're going to cause yourself a major panic attack. You're probably going to save yourself lots of grief because you're going to freak out thinking that all your money's gone when really it's not.
Right, right. It's painless. It's two digits. So
Two digits, two digits.
do yourself a favor, because if you're probably gonna end up asking someone for help, and they're gonna troll you for years for not remembering that it was an 84 wallet. So you touched on multi-sig, and that's obviously, it's a different ball game, but it's just an extension of
Mhm.
the single sig. When we hear Val or someone else say single sig, it's just, kind of the basic wallet setup, self custody setup. When multi-sig is like, instead of just one set of C words, they can be dispersed
Mhm.
and be on different types of devices. You can have, a set on a portion of the seeds on one, all different things. And so we will definitely get to that. I know Val is a huge proponent of multi-sig,
Yes. But I'm
especially
a huge proponent as long as you work your way up to it. Like
right.
I encourage everyone to do a multi-sig when they're ready. That means set up a single sig, wipe it, restore it, feel comfortable, and then do the same thing with a multi-sig. Now you have two different hardware wallets or three, and you set it up, wipe it, and then reset it up, and once you get comfortable with that, again, it's a little bit more work, some extra steps for recovery, but the security benefits are huge.
Well, listen, we've had a great conversation tonight. Thank you, everyone that's been tuning in and checking us out. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit a like button. If you have any questions, comments, resources that you want to share, feel free to include them in a comment. And we're obviously all over it at this point. Thanks again, and remember, if you don't have your keys.
It's not your cheese.
There you go. All right. See you, everyone. Take care.
Have a
Bye.
good one.